Welcome back to another video in the KC series. We're going to be talking about Kingdom Conquest here, and in this video we're going to talk about battles. Now there's going to be land battles and tower battles, and also player versus player battles where you're going to attack their forts or their castles. So let's first start talking about a land battle. First of all, the most important thing to think about is distance and speed. How fast is it going to take you to get to a particular location? Now, the destination, that's where I'm going to dispatch from my fort right here, and obviously the closer you battle to your fort, the less time it will take you to get there. So we click on this level 1. It is 2.2 distance away. If we want to attack it, it will take us 7 seconds to arrive at 2.2 distance. Now let's pick something a little bit further away. Something over here, another level 1 land, and this will take us 2 minutes and 11 seconds. So and it's 36 distance away. So again, the further away it is, the longer it's going to take you to get there. Now, arrival time is completely dependent on monster speed. All right. But now you might ask, well, what happens if I have a couple monsters in my unit? The lowest speed monster, the slowest monster, is going to be the the controlling factor in how long it takes you to get there. So if you have two very fast monsters, but you have one that's very, very slow, that's going to be your dead weight right there, and that's what's going to slow the whole party down. And if you were to take him out, then obviously you'd get there faster because your other two monsters are going to be faster. In addition, like I said in one of the previous videos, when your stamina falls below the 100 threshold, right now it's 400 and it's green, it's okay, you fall below 100, it will take you on a magnitude of about 10 times longer to get wherever you're going. So you really only want to dispatch when you're above 100 stamina. Now the other thing to think about when you're fighting land is how many monsters are going to be at that destination. You can't fight a battle and consistently win if the enemy has more monsters than you, more monster count. In our unit right here, we have max monster count on each monster, 9999, 9999, 9999, and I'll show you a battle log from a nearby level 1. And we fought this giant bat, and it had 50 monster count. So clearly, my 30,000 monster total could beat this 50 monster bat. And we'll pull up the log, and I'll just show you. Here's the startup. Some skills were cast, and then my gargoyle went first because it is the fastest in my team, and it did 50 damage, and the bat died. Something to keep in mind, and this is very, very important, is the monster count at a destination, at a piece of land, will increase depending on the distance of the piece of land. So I went and I printed this out. So I can move my camera up some. Alright, now this is available on the link in the monster spreadsheet on one of the tabs, and it will show you what you can expect at a piece of land close by you. So a land level 1, you're going to meet an NPC level 1 monster. They're going to have about 50 monster count, and that's what we saw. Now the reason there's a plus here is because that's going to increase the further you get away. If you were to fight this same level 1 at a distance of, say, 100, you might meet 350 monsters. Now if you were to fight a level 2 land, and this is all assuming, this monster count is all assuming you're fighting it very close to your base, like within 12 spaces. You fought a level 2 land, you'd averagely, on average, you'd fight monsters of level 3, and you'd meet about 250. Now it's important to look over here at the units in the waves. You are going to meet at that level 1 and level 2 land only one unit. There's only going to be one monster there at that enemy land, and there's only going to be one wave. When we get down here to a level 3 land, though, you're going to see level 5 monsters and 500 monster count. Now that 500 monster count, though, is going to be split between two monsters. So you'll find two monsters there 250 monster count each, and there's only going to be one wave. Now if we jump all the way down, we see this wave number 2. We see 2 waves beginning for a land number 6. Land number 6, you're going to find level 20 monsters and 10,500 monster count. Now that's going to be divided by 3 monsters over here, and you're going to meet about 3,500 monsters per. Each one of the 3 monsters that you meet will have 3,500 monster count. But this wave thing, what that means is once you beat that, get a pen. Once you beat the enemy front, rear, leader at 3,500 times 3, each one will have 3,500. Then you're going to have to do it all over again. 3,500 times 3, front, rear, leader. This will be wave 1. This will be wave 2. So you're going to have to fight 3 monsters and then 3 monsters again. Now towers, we'll talk about towers in a few minutes, but towers can have more than 2 waves. Alright, down here it talks about a level 9 land having 3 waves. I do not believe that's accurate. All land will either have 1 wave or 2 waves, but the important thing to realize when you're fighting land is that understand the nearby monster count and then what it can be if you get far enough away. A level 9 land, for instance, will have about 9,999 or about maybe 8,500 monsters in each position for a total of 27,000 monsters. If you were to fight that same level 9 land, let's say 300 spaces away, you're going to meet 300,000 monsters. So you can't just assume that wherever you hit a piece of land it's going to have the same amount of monsters as on this sheet. It's very distance specific. In addition, when you fight land, what you need to be aware of is your objective. Now let's go to the map here. Watch. I'm going to fight this piece of land and capture it. Attack. Oops, you can't even see. Dispatch. Remember, we talked about before, you need rain. I have 284 available. That's plenty. I just fought it and I captured it. Alright? If you look at the log, let's pull up our log. I can zoom in a little more for you guys. Alright, there's our log of the battle, and we met 51. There we go. Tell you, once I mess with this camera, it becomes a pain to fix. So we met 51 monsters of this, and only one monster. There was not 2 monsters, 3 monsters. Only one. 51 monsters, and that corresponds to our sheet. Level 1 land, 1 monster, 1 level 1, and about 50 monster count. This guy is a level 1 right here. So that's what we expected. But there's some differences between what you're trying to capture. This land right here was unowned. Alright, there is no, when a piece of land is owned, it has a bounding box around it. This land is owned by me now, so there's a blue bounding box. This land right here is owned by a subordinate. Alright, that's why there's an orange box. And this land right here is owned by my parent alliance. I'm currently subbed in this world. My alliance has been subbed. It means captured. And so this is our parent, what our parent alliance owns. This green stuff right here is what we own. This is my ally. He owns this land. Now, if I find some red land, I don't know if I can or not. This is a fairly older world, and I wanted to show you something. Well, I can't find any. Let's just go back to the map and I'll explain. When you fight a piece of land that's unowned, alright, all you have to do is beat the monsters. But if this was red land, if this was enemy territory, if it was red and our alliance did not own it and our parent alliance did not own it, and this was red, I could try to capture this land. Now it would be the same kind of battle. I look at my spreadsheet and I'd see, okay, how many monsters can I expect to meet there? But the important consideration is I'm also going to have to do something called siege damage. And what siege damage is basically you're trying to knock down the enemy fortifications. Every monster has a siege value associated with it. Now this is a gargoyle, it's a demon race, and they have a very, very low siege. So this is level 99. As your level increases, your siege goes up. All right. You're allowed to, like, when you level, you can put points in attack, defense, intelligence, and speed. But siege is always it's unavailable to add points to it. Just goes up on a per level basis. So when you get to level 99, this gold gargoyle has 15 siege. So what you do is you take your siege from all your monsters combined. That was 15. This is about 26. So that's 30. It's 41 total, and that's 5. So we're looking at 46. This team right here would do 46 siege damage. In order to capture any enemy-controlled land, you're going to have to do about 120 siege damage. All right. So I would have to battle this land with this unit, the unit I showed you, 2 or 3 times in order to fully capture it. A land has, let's see if I can get into here. You can look at the durability of a particular piece of land. So this is all land I own, and the durability is 100, although it really does need about 120 siege. I don't know if this is just a typo or what. Yeah, here we go. 120 siege for this land here, 130 siege for this one here that would be needed. So when you're going to go attack a piece of land that is enemy controlled, not NPC controlled, enemy controlled, you're going to need to also do siege damage, otherwise you cannot capture it. And then finally, the other important thing is you have to be adjacent to a piece of land. You can be diagonal or just adjacent in order to capture it. So my base is right here, and I'm diagonal to this piece of land, so when I captured it, I was quote-unquote linked. Now let's try to capture this piece of land right here. Now the only person linked to this is my parent alliance. Let's see what happens. I'm going to dispatch this guy. So this is an unowned piece of land. I have plenty of rain. But when I go to battle this piece of land, I do not capture it. There's no bounding box. There's no bounding box around it. Even though I won the battle, what the log says is not adjoined to target, no damage will be inflicted. All right. So I cannot capture that because I'm not adjoined to the target. You have to be linked to the target in some way. Now what you can do, another thing you have to realize, is you can link off of your ally's land. So I don't have any blue area over here, but the green is my ally, and so I can actually link off of his land. Let's see if I have enough stamina on this unit to do this. Wish I had something a little quicker. There we go. Minute 20. I'll let him go, and while he's dispatching, we'll talk some more. So to recap, when you're going to fight some land, you have to be aware of how long it's going to take you to get there. You know, what is the speed of your team? What is the stamina of your team? You know, I can't. It would take more time now. You know, before it was taking me about 11 seconds with this team to reach a nearby destination. But as you see now, my stamina is really low. It's 6 right now. Remember, I talked about how you need at least a minimum of 100 stamina in each of your monsters in your team in order to not travel at a penalized speed. So because this stamina is below 100, we're going to be heavily penalized, and we have to wait for it to go back up to 100 in order to dispatch and be a lot quicker. So, you know, be very aware of the different factors and considerations of speed, and then also, just to recap, be very aware of what you're attacking. You know, what level land you're attacking, and how many monsters are expected to be at that level land, not only based on, you know, that spreadsheet, but also how far away you're attacking. Sometimes what you can do if you really want to capture a piece of land, but you don't know if you can do it, and you don't want to die and lose all your monster count, you can send out a scout, and the scout will, you know, it's maybe a 1 monster count bat, and you send it out there to see what, you know, kind of scout it out, investigate. He's going to die, but he's not going to lose any monster count because he's already at one monster count, and he'll come back, and you can look at the log and say, oh, okay, there's going to be, you know, 4,000 monsters total. They're split 3 ways, so I need something, you know, equivalent in order to attack it. Alright, getting back here, our hound got to the location, and as you can see, I was able to link there, and the reason I was is because my ally owns the land. You can always link off your ally's land. And the same goes for subordinates. You can link off your subordinate's land. Now, the difference is when you're subbed, so our alliance is currently subbed, that's why you see some purple squares here. When you're subbed, all of your subordinates get owned now by your parent alliance, and you're no longer allowed to link off your subordinates. So in order to link off, you can always link off your own land, blue, you can always link off green. Sometimes, as long as you're not subbed, captured, you can link off orange. You can never link off of purple though. Alright, and then also finally be aware that you're going to need siege damage, so plan accordingly. If you go to attack a piece of land and you don't have enough siege, there's just no way you can get it. And one more important thing, let's say there's an incoming battle and people are trying to reach your fort or get to your castle, so they're going to link, because in order to actually capture the land you have to be linked to it. So if you want to capture his fort, you have to link your way to his fort. One thing to be aware of is people can reinforce land. Typically, any land under level 6 is going to have one wave associated with it, and then level 6 to 9 is going to have 2 waves associated with it. But what you're allowed to do in this game is you can click on a piece of land that you own, and you can click send. Now let's put our hound at this piece of land. We're going to dispatch to our own land. Alright? Now you're allowed to battle your own land. Alright, you can battle your own land for experience points, or just for whatever reason. And if you wanted to do that, you'd click dispatch. Alright, but what else you can do is you can reinforce it. So you click reinforce, and then it's going to take the same amount of time that it would normally take to arrive to the land to get there. Now you see this flag right here, this land is presently reinforced. What that means is, if you have sometimes if you're being attacked, you'll have an indicator down here of an incoming attack, and it will have a flag on it, and it will tell you when the enemy is going to arrive at your piece of land. So there might be an enemy who's sending something, and he's going to arrive in 15 minutes. And you don't want, he's trying to link to your base, because again, the only way you can capture somebody is if you've linked to your base. So this guy's coming in, he wants to link to your base, what do? You can reinforce the land. Now you don't know what this guy's sending, it will just show you the arrival time of the enemy unit. But you can put a strong unit here and reinforce your land, and that way when the enemy comes, he'll first have to fight the NPC at this land. He'll fight either one wave or two depending on the level of the land, but then he'll have to fight your unit. Alright? And so you can really kind of get the jump on somebody and surprise them, because they might not be expecting the land to be reinforced. But during wars and a lot of battles, it's very common to expect land to be reinforced. So just don't think I'm going to go to this guy's land and attack him. He might very well reinforce his land, and you're going to be up a creek if you weren't prepared for that. So to recall our guy and get him from not reinforcing it anymore, go to Unit. You click Action, click on the Reinforce tab, and we see our reinforced unit. Click the shield, and click Withdraw, and he is going to come home now. It will take you the same amount of time that it took to get there to actually come home. One neat thing is, if you're recovering stamina, you can recover stamina at a unit while that unit's reinforcing. So let's say you've completely expended all the stamina at the unit, but you have an incoming attack and you want to protect yourself, you can send him out as long as it's close by to that piece of land, reinforce, and he will regenerate stamina. And another thing to keep in mind is the difference between attacking versus defending. If you go to send your unit out to a piece of land to attack it, alright, your skills are not going to fire right if you're below 100 stamina. But that's not true for defending. Reinforcing is different, but defending your castle, if you're below 100 stamina, it doesn't matter. If an attack is incoming, your skills will work just fine against the unit because you're in defensive mode. Alright, so that's a good talk about land, and let's begin and talk about towers right now. So The other, you can attack land, and that land can be NPC owned or player owned, but you can also attack towers. Now, the key to the game is obviously to build really strong units, and how you do that is you can acquire the units through running the dungeons and getting them from packs, but you can also buy them at auction, and this is the most important way to get monsters. But all of the monsters can be very expensive. Now, this is not dollars, this is called DP, and it's called daily points. And the only way to really get DP aside from selling a monster at auction is to conquer towers. I mentioned before how every tower has an associated DP value with it. Now let's go to our spreadsheet. Alright, so on the spreadsheet you have all the towers, and these are the tower levels, all the way 1 to 6, and then a debris tower is counted at 7. Here is the level of the monster you can expect to find at the tower. Starting at level 1, you're going to find a level 10 monster. And, as far as the NPC level, I guess that's what you can expect, corresponding stats that you would need to have. You can't, even if you had enough monsters, if you had 1,500 monsters, you probably still couldn't beat a level 1 tower if you were level 1, because they're going to have more stats allocated than you, so their attack's probably going to be higher, etc., etc. So, you don't want to go fighting a level 7 land even if you have enough monster count if you're, a level 20. That's probably not a smart idea. It can be done, but it's not recommended. The total monsters you're going to find at the tower, and then the mobs per, so this is the breakdown of your front, rear, leader. At level 1 tower, you're not going to find a middle, a rear. You're going to find a front and a leader. And then for the rest of them, it's not on here, but for all the other towers, you're going to find 3 different monsters: 1,500, 1,500, 1,500, 35, 35, 35, 55, 55, 55, and then finally, when you get to a debris, 15,000, 15,000, 15,000. I think it got cut off because I didn't expand my columns in Excel very well. And then here's your units, how many enemy units you're going to find. You're going to find 2, just a front and a leader, and then for the rest of them you're going to find a front, rear, and a leader. This is how many waves you have to beat from Tower 1 all the way to Tower 2. You're only going to meet 3 waves, so you have to beat 1 round of enemies of 750 and 750, a second round of 750, 750, and then finally a third round of 750, 750. This is the NPC cost. The NPCs, the people that made the game, had to work within a particular cost. They didn't want to send like super hard monsters to a level 1 tower because then you'd never be able to beat it. So this is just an example of what you're going to expect to find there. And then finally you have durability. We talked about durability with attacking a player-owned land where you're going to need about 120 siege damage to capture that land. Each tower has a durability. And so the tower level 1, 50, level 2, 300, then 300, 200, 300, 500, 700, 1,000, and then the debris has 5,000. Doing a lot of siege. If you remember my unit, it had like 66. So you needed an incredible amount of siege damage in order to do this. And finally your DP breakdown based on the level of the tower. The key difference between durability on a tower versus a player-owned piece of land is, let's say you want to capture an enemy, a player-owned enemy level 8 land. Now that land's going to have 2 waves on it. It's going to have about 120 durability. You fight it once with your team with, like, let's say 75 durability. You're then going to have to fight it again, and the waves will reappear. So you beat the 2 waves one time, you dispatch, your unit gets there, it fights the 2 waves, and then it comes back home. Then you have about, let's say, 3 to 6 hours to go fight it again before the durability will completely regenerate. So, but when you go out there and fight it again, you're going to have to fight those monsters all over again. So you could, in fact, lose. Towers are different, though. When you beat a monster, or you just reduce their monster count, you don't even have to beat the wave. That monster, that particular wave in the tower will be gone until it regenerates 3 to 6 hours later. So, just to explain what I mean, let's say you fight a level 2 tower, 1,500 times 3, so you have your front, rear, leader, each with 1,500 monster count, and that's wave 1. And then wave 2, you have the same thing, wave 3, you have the same thing. Now if you go out there and fight that tower and you beat wave 1, but you die at wave 2, you can go fight that tower again, and you'll only have to fight waves 2 and 3. Wave 1 will be dead and remain dead for, depending on the level of the tower, between 3 and 6 or 12 hours. So when you finally beat all 3 waves, your team, whatever team you're currently using, will inflict the siege damage on the tower. The tower will lose durability. So let's say you inflict on a 200 durability tower, you inflict 75 siege damage, so that leaves you with 125 left. You can go and dispatch again to the tower. Sorry for always making the thing sideways. You can go and dispatch again to the tower, and as long as it's before these waves regenerate, all right, it doesn't, you can just send a, 1 monster count team of 3 with high siege damage in order to destroy the tower. Because a lot of times you'll have units that are attacking teams that have a lot of monster count in them, whose specific purpose is to, beat enemies at a particular piece of land, and then you'll have another set of monsters in your monster box, or whatever you want to call it, that are specifically for doing siege damage, and they'll all be at like 1 monster count, because when you do dispatch them, you're not going to find any monsters at the area you're looking to do siege damage on. So you'd have your giants, because a lot of giants have high siege damage, and you'd pair them all together and send them out once you've beaten the waves, and that way you can just quickly defeat the rest of the tower's durability before the waves regenerate. Alright, let's see what else we got. I actually made a list of stuff I wanted to talk about in this video instead of just winging it like the other videos. The difference also between fighting a tower and fighting a piece of land is it doesn't matter if the tower is 5 spaces away from you or 500 spaces away from you. The monster count of the tower is always fixed. So if you look at your spreadsheet for a level 1 tower, you are always going to find 1500 monster count regardless of how far away that tower is. So you can dispatch very, very far away in order to beat a tower. But like I said, the same does not hold true for land. If you dispatch against a level 2 land that's 500 spaces away, instead of finding 250 monsters there, you could find 22,000 or even more. When you beat the tower, the spreadsheet showed you the number of DP the tower will award. It's split evenly amongst the number of people in your alliance. And also, in order to beat a tower or to do siege damage to a tower, you have to be... Let me correct that. I was going to say you have to be linked to the tower. You don't have to be linked to a tower in order to fight the monsters at the tower. But in order to inflict siege damage, you have to be linked to the tower. So you can, fight the tower an hour before you actually get linked there. If you kind of want to jump the gun, if you know, in fact, that you're actually going to link there. But your team will not inflict any damage to the tower's durability because you are not, in fact, linked there. Finally, all towers have durability, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so we've talked how you can attack land, player-owned, NPC-owned. We've talked about how you can attack towers, and then finally, let's talk about how you can attack people's forts. So, here is somebody's fort right here. They are red, so I can attack them. You can not attack subordinate alliance forts or castles. This is the castle, that's a fort. So if it's orange, you cannot attack their fort. It won't work. You cannot attack your parent alliance's fort or castle either. But you can attack enemy fort or castles. You don't have to be linked to anything, whether it's land, whether it's a tower, or whether it's a castle or a fort, in order to fight what's in it. But in order to actually capture it, you have to be linked to it. So let us make a bridge right now, link to this guy, so we can show you us capturing him. It's going to take 20 minutes to get there, jeez. Alright, he's going to take 3 minutes, he'll get there. And then while he's going there, I'm going to attack it from my other base with another team. Now you can send out multiple attacks simultaneously to create a path. You're going to link one spot at one particular time, and then link the next one and link the next one. This guy has a lot of siege damage, and he's only level 16, so he has 46 siege damage. all enemy castles and forts have have durability. So you're going to need to bring the durability down. Now, if you take a look, my hound is going to arrive here in 3 minutes, and my other team from my other castle is going to arrive here in 5 minutes. If it were reversed, and the hound were going to get here at 5 minutes, and whatever, my other team was going to get here in 2 minutes, the team that would arrive here first would be able to battle the monsters here, but there'd be no way I could in fact do siege damage to this castle's durability, because I would not be linked. So you have to, like I said, link, and you have to do it in the right order, otherwise you're not going to do the siege damage to the castle. So while that's going, let's go over here and look at, it's my fort, but let's look at my castle, and we can look at durability. Now, of all the things you can level up, when you first start, you're going to have a little castle here, and it's not going to look like this. It's going to look different. I've leveled mine up, so you can level up, and it costs a lot of resources once you get very high. But if you click on details, it will show you the durability of your castle, and it doesn't really go up that much till like level 15 or whatever, and then it starts to get very high. You can actually get up to about 2600 durability. And also when you level it up, it increases your monster count available that you can build at your castle too. It's important to note there's something called confinement mode, and it's important to understand what this is. Confinement mode basically means that when you are under confinement, confinement always lasts 5 hours, and it takes a certain amount of time in order to set it up. The next confinement is going to happen when I sleep, at 1 a.m. You always want to have confinement on when you're not going to be around. What confinement basically does is, enemies, if there's an incoming attack, like let's say you're sleeping, enemies can take your land and they can destroy their forts, but there's no way they can do siege damage to your castle while you're in confinement. Alright, so a good time to set confinement is when you're asleep, so that you don't wake up and suddenly you're subbed. You've been captured by another alliance. So you set it at like 1 a.m., you assume I'll wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, and I should not be captured because I was under confinement for the majority of the time. There's a new option here called defense setting. And basically what that means is Sega's implemented a new option, which is walls. And let's go to our city, and I'll show you that. If you click on the wall, it will bring up castle walls. You click on details. You can level this up, and when you level it up, it actually reduces the incoming siege damage by a percentage. I believe when you get it to the maximum amount, you can reduce the damage by 50%. And it takes resources to level it up and stuff like that. Capitulate, I don't know what that means. I don't know, I haven't really played with this feature yet, because the only world that I'm really active in is a new world, and in the new world you're not going to really worry about leveling up your castle walls. It's something you want to do later in the game. Early in the game you want to focus on resources and building up monster count so you can take towers and defend yourself. So let's go back to our fort and see what the status of the attack is. Alright, he's linked right there, and we are going to arrive in 1 minute and 39 seconds. So let me stop it right here, and we will, after a short break, come on back and look at what happens. Alright, we're back. Sorry about that. I'm going to try to merge this video with the other one. If it doesn't work, I apologize. So we're 51 seconds out from this guy's castle. We beat this land. Now this guy, he obviously didn't reinforce this. You can tell this is we're very far into the season right now, and his castle looks different than mine because he has not leveled his castle up. So that basically means that because we're so far in the season, he's probably not an active player anymore, and so it should be fairly easy to beat his land, and he's not going to be reinforcing it. While we're waiting, there's one more thing you can do when you attack somebody. In Season 2 and above, you can collect something called shards. And the shards will allow you to unlock very elite monsters. And you collect these shards through running captured dungeons. And there's a chance when you complete the dungeon to get a shard as reward. And I'm sorry, when you draw from packs. So when you draw from the packs in here, let me show you the pack. You get a draw from the packs using crystals and also using dungeon clears. That's what I was trying to say. So you can draw. Well, that's not a dungeon pack. We got to go to the dungeon pack. So like this is an actual dungeon, When we clear it, we'll get 2 clear bonuses, and we'll get some crystals, probably not 190. But what you can do then is you can draw from it using either of these, and there's an opportunity for you to get a shard, and when you collect all the shards from every single one of the dungeons, you can unlock your elite monsters. So Season 2 and onwards, you're going to be really looking for ways to capture crystals. And one of the best ways is doing a raid. So let's talk about real quickly the difference between a raid and... Now I've arrived at this guy's castle. Let's see what happened. Alright, so we fought the land right there. That was a different piece of land, I think. That was to link to his castle, and this is his fortress. The fortress sustained 100 damage, 10 reduced from the castle wall effect, and that's it. But we did not do enough damage to the castle in order to destroy it. So let's send one more unit there and see if we can take it down. I'll send this guy. Now this is the other thing I was trying to tell you about the crystals. You can dispatch, and you'll do damage to their castle as long as you're linked to it. And what you're going to do is you're going to fight every single wave at their castle. A castle can have, see the unit box right here, a castle can have up to 5 different units added if you've unlocked them all. You just have to level up some certain facilities in order to unlock them. But you can have units at each one of these areas. So the castle can have up to 5 units. So when you dispatch and you try to do damage to their castle, you're going to have to fight any and all waves at their castle. All right, so you could fight up to 5 different waves, 5 different teams of units at their castle. In addition, I talked about reinforcing. You can actually reinforce an ally's castle. So if you're the lord of an alliance and you have all your members can send units to your castle and reinforce it in case you're about to be captured or whatever, and hopefully those reinforcements can stave off stave off the enemy attacks. But the other option, and this is where the crystals come into play, is you can do a raid. Now a raid is not going to beat all the waves. It's only going to fight one wave. It's going to fight the first unit at the castle. And if you win, you're going to get crystals as a reward. If the guy has crystals, you get approximately 50% of his crystals if you are successful at the raid. And so in Season 2, a lot of people will be doing these raids. You don't have to be linked to the guy's castle to raid. You can just find someone who's an enemy and raid their castle and see if they have any crystals. And what you'll do with those crystals then is you'll use them in the dungeon packs in order to try and get a shard. So you'll see a lot of people doing that in Season 2. But we don't want to do that. We just want to dispatch and beat this guy right now. So let's... that's probably going to take too long. Let's see if we can have something a little bit closer. How about this team? 3 minutes out. And we'll go to our team over here and see if we have anything. 2 minutes. Alright, dispatch. So I have 3 teams coming in. As you increase the number of teams coming into the guy, it will appear up here. So we have 3 teams coming in. The first team coming in is 2 minutes and 38 seconds, and we'll definitely beat him with this. While we're waiting, let's talk about some more things. We've talked about confinement. We've talked about the difference between a raid, where you're just going to fight one wave and you're just going to get crystals. You don't have to be linked. And we've talked about dispatching, where you're going to fight all of the waves at that land or at the tower. You can't actually raid land, and you can't raid towers. You can only raid castles and forts. Actually, you can't even raid a fort, I believe. You can only raid a castle. So you can dispatch your towers to your lands, to your castles and your fort, and you're going to fight all the waves there. We've talked about confinement mode, which is going to last 5 hours, and it takes about 12 hours to set up. So if you were to set it up right now, for, let's say it's 5 o'clock right now, and you were to set it up to begin at 6 o'clock p.m., it would not work because it's only 1 hour away. You have to set it up so far in advance. Then finally, I want to talk about something called beginner protection period. When you first join the world, you're going to be under a 10-day beginner protection period, and that means nobody can do damage to the durability of your castle. They can destroy your forts, they can capture your land, and they can beat the monsters at your castles and forts, But while you're under beginner protection period, no one can actually sub you or capture your alliance. And there'll be a little flag indicator, or this is a flag here, you'll see a little triangle, upside down triangle I believe, multicolored, that will indicate that this person is under beginner protection period. But this is very far into the season and this guy is not under BPP, and so we should have absolutely no problem capturing him. While we're waiting, I'll show you one last thing, because the next video I want to talk about looking at the battle logs. So we're going to just take a brief look at the battle logs. I've showed you it before, but we will look one more time. You click on report, you look up here for a log, and let me pull up one of my alliance logs. What's really neat about being an alliance, aside from the fact that you have buddies you can talk with and help you out and stuff, you can also view some of their logs. So let's look at some of the logs over here. Now here's a log of a raid. This was when you look at logs, you don't see everything. You only see some stuff. But you can see this massive battle that went on between this guy in my alliance, Triple X. I'm in Barracuda. His name's Triple X, and he fought this guy called Hertz. And Hertz is not in an alliance. It seems if you're not in an alliance, usually your name will be the alliance name. You can, in fact, have your name, be the alliance name and have lots of people in it, but this is usually an indicator that there's nobody else in his alliance. So you click on log and you can kind of see what happens. Again, it will show you what position they are, what monster count they had, and then you'll see the startup skills happen. Startup are all the skills that are quote-unquote startup, and then you'll see the turns take place. And all of this information is very important to learn how to properly play this game. At the end, somebody wins, and then assuming you have enough stamina, because we talked about how below 100 stamina or below 200 stamina you get no experience points. If you are not maximum level and you have enough stamina, you will get experience points and you will level up. Down here you see a level 114 to 15. We'll talk about it in the future, but there's a way to awaken your monster and break through the level 99 barrier and actually level them up to 120. Well, that's for a future video. So let's go back and see if we have captured this enemy. Alright, let's see. Yes, we have captured him. See, we can tell that because it's no longer red, it is now orange, and that means it is our subordinate. So let's go look at the log. A couple of my teams hit. Oh no, just one. So it's green if you've not viewed it. If you've already viewed it, it turns brown. So let's view that. This guy didn't have any monsters at his base, or at his castle. I brought mine in. No monsters, battle cancelled, but even though it was cancelled, I still do damage to the castle's durability. The castle wall is reduced 10, and it sustained 30 damage. And the fortress was destroyed, and this guy became Liberal Subsidiary Alliance. Realize I am not in Liberal, I am in Barracuda, but like I said before, because Liberal is my parent alliance, they're the people who have captured us, Barracuda, this guy now belongs to Liberal. And that about wraps up the discussion on attacking and capturing land. Now this was kind of an overview of the basics. We will definitely have a future video about tips and tricks and suggestions on how to wage an effective war. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this. If you do, please give us a thumbs up and please use my invite code if you're on Android. Thanks.